What's up, everybody? It's Chad. We're back again with another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. I'm here today with my friend Shekhinah Jones. I hope I did that correctly and under pressure.
Right.
So thank you for joining me today. It's going to be a great conversation. This is actually one we've never had before, so I'm excited to talk about that. Thank you all for joining me and watching again. So let's go ahead and jump right into the episode again. Thank you so much for joining me, and for my guests and myself, since this is my first time really talking to you, meeting you. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you're about.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me as a guest on your show. So basically what I'm doing is acknowledging that we as cannabis users, our health needs to be taken into account when it comes to personal care products. So let me start again. My name's Shekhinah Jones. I'm just a kid from small town Kansas. Moved to New Mexico in order to smoke weed because it's legal here. No shade. And so when I moved here in 2023, went through some stuff, and I had to realize that I have an option when it comes to anything in my life. And I have to accept things in the past that had happened, and I have to progress and move on and heal as much as possible. So really that birthed the whole 1921 Cannabis Aftercare brand. So basically what I'm saying is that we as users, I don't want us to stop using cannabis at all, because it's going to happen. We see statistics showing the increase in the community. I feel that's never going to change. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge like this stuff can affect our bodies, affect our oral care, for instance. And we have to address it, acknowledge it, and do as much as possible to heal from it. So I created a toothpaste, actually, cannabis aftercare toothpaste. This is the first prototype, but the ingredients include things like SCG, which is an alternative to sulfate. That's important because sulfate can cause canker sores and mouth ulcers, which is a huge problem because that brings diseases into your mouth, into your body. And with it being in your mouth, the cells in your mouth double at the rate of the cells everywhere else in your body. So you're twice as likely to get sick or whatever, develop an illness, oral cancers, whatever, simply because we are using a certain type of toothpaste. And then we're smokers as well, which increases the chances. And if you're a person like me who got blessed with the genetics of getting canker sores and stuff, even as a kid, then you're just increasing your chances more and more and more of getting sick. So again, to me, it's okay. I can just simply create something to get rid of sulfate to help reduce the chances of us getting sick, and still acknowledging like we can still smoke, but here's a solution to reduce any negative harms from it. And I also have things in it like stainless fluoride. So when you go to the grocery store and you pick up toothpaste, your dentist always tells you get something with fluoride in it. Great, because fluoride is good for the teeth, it's good for oral care, all those good things. But the way that brands get us as consumers is they will use the cheapest type of fluoride, which is traditionally sodium fluoride, which is fine. But again, for us as cannabis users, I don't feel like it makes sense that if, no shade, Joe Schmo, who doesn't smoke and doesn't do anything bad, can use the same toothpaste as somebody who does. Logically, that just doesn't make sense to me. So like fluoride, for instance, so the type that I'm using, it has the regular benefits of fluoride with the additional benefits of antimicrobial elements. So you're really cleaning your mouth out while also getting a product that's decently priced, especially compared to other brands. Even even brands like Sensodyne, for instance, they use the whole fluoride thing, and it's sodium fluoride. But it's the cheapest, but they'll charge you an arm and a leg for it, and it just
Name.
yeah, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And for me, I'm just for my community. I'm not planning on making this super expensive or anything like that. It's genuinely like, hey, I'm a part of this community as well. I need a solution just like y'all. And I'm not expecting to make you pay an arm and a leg for it. And I want to give you an actual quality product. Another thing with Sensodyne, they are huge on sensitivity. That's a huge selling point for them. How they go about it is they use a product called potassium nitrate, which is fine and it's legal here in the United States. But the thing with potassium nitrate is it doesn't really help the problem. What it does is it numbs your brain receptors to from the pain that your nerves and your teeth are feeling from being damaged and still being affected by any heat, coldness, fluids, sugars, all this THC, or the flavorings that are in vape pens that are not the same flavorings that grandma's using in her pound cake. I'm just saying it's not, it's totally different. And you have to take that into account as well. But anyway, so all of that stuff, it affects those nerves in your mouth. But potassium nitrate, it just blocks your brain receptors from feeling it. So the damage is still happening. Nothing is being done, and you don't realize it until it's too late. Whereas the strontium chloride that I'm using, it's a natural based coconut product, ingredient, not product, coconut based ingredient. And actually, what it does is it blocks those endings of those damaged nerve cells. So none of that fluid, the heat, and all that stuff, it doesn't come in and continue to damage your mouth. So things like that to me are important because I want this community to continue to grow. Like I want people to smoke and vape and if not saying it's the best, but if you need a cigarette, get a cigarette. I prefer you to do that compared to crashing out on someone. Just saying. So but I also acknowledge that there has to be real life solutions in order to keep this thing going. Um, and even talking to people who don't smoke and who are fearful of, oh my God, what about the lungs and all this other stuff? Even having something as simple as a toothpaste is acknowledging we're talking about this. We're having these conversations. We don't have everything figured out just yet, but at least we're starting somewhere. And that helps to ease people's minds and bring them into the community and make them want to try it themselves. So, yeah. So, yeah, I'm just trying to help us out, trying to keep this thing going, keep this thing growing. Um, and the reason why I moved to New Mexico specifically, because I'm from Kansas, is because it's just started to be legal here and you kind of see the groundwork going. And I wanted to be a part of that and throw my little 2 cents in with it. So yeah.
Nice. And that's really original because most people are trying to get in, licensing or some other way to work with a dispensary. You're kind of going around it and you're saying, well, I'm just going to create a product for cannabis consumers. That's not going to be a product that you use to smoke with it. This is going to be an aftercare product, or a care product in general. I mean, you don't have to use this after smoking. You can just brush your teeth whenever you want with it. And that's the beauty of it. What did you do before cannabis? Like you seem to, have a lot of knowledge about oral care. Were you dental or anything like that?
No, I just like personal care products. Like if you see me around town, I'm probably gonna look really shiny, like I probably do right now. So I don't know. It's just always been an interest of mine since I was a kid. Like oral care, brushing your teeth, like all that crap is just was my thing. I remember actually a memory of me and some friends when I was a kid, and I was like just going in for that was weird gesture. I was doing brushing my teeth for a while there. And one of my friends' mom, she came in, she was like, you for real be taking care of your teeth. Like, you be doing it thoroughly. I need you to teach my kid how to do it. And da, da, da. So that stuff to me has always been an interest of mine. But before getting into cannabis, I did project management work. I worked for a research center that did created state assessments. So, in school, when we have to sit in the computer lab and take those tests every year, yeah, that's what I did. So, sorry for those painful memories. But, and it wasn't a bad job. Like, I was great at it, but my heart wasn't into it. And there was just a lot of stuff that happened. And in my head, it was okay. Either way, no matter what route I go in life, there's going to be stress, anger, rage, all that stuff, no matter what. So, again, what's your choice going to be? Are you going to be stressed and angry about stressed and angry about over a job that you really don't like? Or do you actually want to go and pursue your goals and your dreams? Because back in the day, I remember before I dropped out of college, I would be on campus just like writing in my notes, like different ideas of like ways to get into the community without doing it the traditional way.
Yeah.
Uh, and I would come up with products and ideas, but it was just like, I couldn't do that, like I don't have the ability. And then at some point, it was just like, hey, Bookie, you gonna either make your choice or you're gonna keep being upset and angry at the world when the world didn't force you to do anything.
Yeah.
The world didn't force you to go into education and to create this image of you being this project manager during the day, but at night you sit up here sneaking, smoking weed because you could potentially get fired at your job.
Yeah.
And so it's just, and you're dealing with that kind of dual personality. And after a while, for me, it was too much. Like, I don't want to be looking over my shoulder every time I go into a dispensary. Like, I didn't want that. So I just decided, you know what? Fuck it. Just go and try it. Do what you do. You have one life, live it, and you get to mix the things that are your interests, weed and personal care. So do it.
Wow. That. Thank you for that, because that gives me a lot of information about you too. But that's great that you are deciding to go about this for your community essentially. And the fact that you're in another new community on top of that. So you're trying to join a new community on top of a new community, but you're already part of the cannabis community in a sense. Um,
Mhm.
but it's just the New Mexico one that you're getting introduced to. How long have you lived here?
2 years
Okay.
since 2023. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and a lot of people decided to make that move. How do you like it here so far?
I like it. And I'll say it's like this. It's amazing because just for me, my personal story, I needed to kind of get out and create me, not be in an environment that I'm used to and being able to make excuses for my actions in that environment. So when I moved here, didn't always make every great choice and I did burn some bridges, but again, I had to learn it from me. Um, and so that's really a big reason why I came here. But I do like it here. But it's also just like anywhere else in the world where you have great, amazing people, but you also have bad people, and you have to decide who you are, no matter the space, no matter where you're at. But I love the weather. I love the nature and the hiking. That's really what helped me lose a lot of weight. When I moved here, I was over 300 pounds and I've lost 200 so far. And so I'll forever be grateful for this place and love the food. Thank God I'm actually eating authentic food. No shade. Um, and everybody's nice. Well, not everybody. Generally, most people are nice, and most people just want to see how you're doing. And people will walk up to you at the grocery store. Like for instance, something I've never experienced in my life. Um, Not to bring race into it, but a white man walked up to me at the grocery store and asked, like, as a black person, what's your opinion about moving here? And that kind of shocked me because that's never been a question I've been asked. And I view it as a good question. Like, not he wasn't being rude or anything, but it was just like that's different, something I never experienced. Or things like the city of Las Cruces celebrating Juneteenth. Like,
Mhm.
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Or not seeing Bible verses on your billboards every time you walk down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. And it's a good difference in many ways. And I love it here so far. So Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and yeah, some people ask me weird questions too. I'm from a different city, from Alamogordo. It's a military town, so it's mixed on in what's there and everything. I kind of grew up with everyone. So like my palate for food is a lot different than my friends sometimes. Which is funny. Like, how do you know about this? I was like, oh, I had a friend of this and this and this, and
Right.
so I totally get it. Even moving here, because Alamogordo, there's New Mexico has like the most Hispanic Latinos per capita in any state. Alamogordo isn't that way. It's totally different. And so when I moved here, I was like, oh man, there's a lot of people like me here. I'm like, oh, that's what this name meant. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was just used to so many different people, like over there and everything. And so moving here was a little culture shock for me too. I was like, okay, well, makes sense. I could get the food I want a little easier, I guess. There's more Mexican
Right.
here than more restaurants in general here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I can get pho, I can get sushi, I can get New Mexican.
Right.
Selection is a little bit better. El Paso has a lot more selections too. They have a lot of Korean options. So I want to go check out some of the Korean barbecue they got over there. Love me some Korean barbecue. I was stationed in Hawaii when I was in the military, so that kind of furthered my palate for food and the different things I like to try. So definitely. Then brushing your teeth goes along with that too,
Yeah. Even so, thinking about edibles, for instance, you got all the sugars, the fats, all of those things, and THC does affect your teeth too. So yeah. So again,
Let's
best
dive into
practice.
how does THC affect your teeth? I'm sure some people are kind of curious about that.
Well, just because the chemical makeup of it, it can not necessarily damage your teeth or your oral care, but it can change the microbes within it with having the additional THC in it as well, and with all the flavorings, the sugars, and all those things as well. But yeah, that THC component, it changes the microbes in there.
Oh, in your mouth and everything. Interesting.
Mhm.
I was kind of curious of that. And do you have the product with you that you could show us?
Yeah. So, well, this is the first prototype.
Okay, prototype.
Um, yes, this is the first one, and I'm made a with the updated formula. I updated the prototype as well. So with this one, it kind of to me feels a little bit generic because of the brand is the name of the company is Cannabis Aftercare and not specifically just the toothpaste. So what I did was just kind of made it more kind of unique in a way, and less made this specific toothpaste have like its own name, so that way I can build the brand into more products, because I'm also thinking about going into like laundry as well, and getting different detergents and stuff like that. So just kind of building it. But here's the first one.
And you mentioned the detergent. That's interesting because a lot of cannabis users smoke, and believe it or not, smoke is smoke, regardless of where it comes from. What you generate with smoke, it's still smoke. It gets in your clothes. And don't get me wrong, it's nothing near tobacco and cigarettes. I get it. It does dissipate a lot quicker than those, but it does leave a trace, and we do end up muting ourselves essentially to it. We don't smell it after a while, and we're just like, "What do you mean I smell like weed? I thought I didn't."
Right.
Adding a component to that, that might help people out too, especially the people who may have to be a little more discreet about their cannabis use, because these products, you can send them all over the world. It doesn't have to just be here in New Mexico that you could find these products. So, that's interesting. I remember there was times where people had the little, what are they, good boost or some shit like that, the filter you can blow in smoke and nothing go. Yeah, I never had to hear about that one, but I remember that was kind of a product that kind of reminds me of it, or the spray that they put in cars. And come to find out, you're not supposed to be in the vehicle when you spray that in there. Like, I guess it's terrible for you. So if you can figure one out, that's kind of cool.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
If you can figure the vehicle spray one out, without killing people, that would be great too,
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I was like, how could like a Ozium type of thing, or how could you do it without it hurting you? Because I was that kid who would hotbox and then spray all that crap in the car, thinking like I'm fine, and it's like you might be sick from this. You don't realize what you're doing. But yeah. So yeah, you're right. Something like that does need to be made, created.
And you're already kind of on the same path. So that's great to see. I mean, there's even lotions and stuff like that can be done. I mean, smoke is smoke, and it does do things to your skin. I think they have studies of the tobacco, users back in the day with that as well.
Mhm.
It does a lot of things, and even the beard guys, like myself, we could use, aftercare stuff. We're smoking, we're getting stuff in our beards. I don't know what it does to hair, but if there's some aftercare for even just, and some people might buy it just to say, well, this is just a cool looking product. Like I like
Mhm.
cannabis aftercare.
Right.
This could be a ring to it too. But it has like a purpose, which is great. It's not just a name.
Yeah.
And so, are you just starting out with toothpaste now? Like, do you have anything else you're working on?
Yeah, so right now I'm just starting out on the toothpaste. I really want to solidify the formula, and then my plan is to really engage the consumers. I really want to get people's feedback and see what are you thinking about this? How do you even feel with the toothpaste? Is it something you would use? Really solidify that and build that relationship with the consumers. And then from there, I would, still want to go through with the laundry and, like you said, the sprays and stuff like that. But I would also want to have conversations with people too, and just simply be like, hey, what is it that you feel like is important to you when it comes to your health and it comes to this? What do you feel like would ease your mind, especially new users, that are coming into the community? Like, because a lot of people get a lot of paranoia about weed, and it's like, y'all like drink all these sodas and all go to McDonald's and all this crap, and it's just like, but you're concerned about something that grows out of the ground. Okay. But it does help to ease their minds a little bit, just to even just say, hey, we're talking about this, we're acknowledging it. Um, and like I said, I want this to keep going and keep growing.
No, 100%. That's one thing we want too. And one of New Mexico's motto is actually it grows as it goes. And so that's kind of like the same kind of thing. Yeah, and that's how we do here in New Mexico. And it's a great motto for us because that's how we do most things. We allow it to grow as we go. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a great model for a lot of things too, and not just for New Mexico.
Right.
And some people get kind of confused by it. I'm like, it just means as you're going and you're working on it, you're growing.
Yeah.
Like that's all that means.
Yeah. It's just, I feel like that's a sign of today's time, is everybody wants the instant gratification, wants things to come super fast. And no shade, but a little bit like my generation and younger, almost 30, but my generation and younger, I do feel like a lot of times we do want that viral, super fast moment. Um, and I had to realize myself that that's not how life works. Especially if you're actually trying to create something positive with longevity. Usually, you're gonna have to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and like you said, you gotta grow with it. You
Mhm.
gotta make the mistakes. You gotta realize, like, oh, I was an asshole in that moment, or oh, I messed up because I didn't want to listen to someone who actually has done this before,
Yeah.
because of my own stubbornness. But like you said, yeah, it's part of growing. You kind of got to deal with the growing pains a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's self-inflicted,
Mhm.
growing pains, and that's okay. We learn from it, hopefully.
Right.
And some people don't, but it seems like that you have, because you came to me last year at some point, on wanting to be on the show at some point, but you
Mhm.
weren't too sure really where direction you're going. So now, I'm glad now, skip forward, you've kind of seen the direction you're implementing it. You have a prototype out, you have an actual toothpaste that you can use, right? And I'm sure you do it yourself.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, I use it every day myself. And I went to the dentist last month, and I told I told my dentist about it. Which, first of all, they were like, "What the?"
what do you mean get a toothpaste?
Yeah, like what the, like and you just, and I was like, yeah, I have it, and I had it in my pocket. I was like, yeah, I have it right here. And they were like, which I accepted. It's kind of strange and it's kind of weird, but when they did the cleaning and stuff, they're like, oh my god, your teeth are great. Like whatever you're using, it's doing amazing things. And I was like, oh, cool, great. So I'll keep using it. And then even then, I got advice from them as well in terms of what should cannabis users use? Why should we have a focus on vape pens and edibles as well? Because to me, my head was, well, a vape pen it's not that bad. Like it's not the end of the world. And but again, and they agree with that as well, that it's not the worst thing out there. But you have to consider all of the ingredients that are in them, and the effects that they can have on your mouth, and also with the heat that's required to light up a vape pen. It's for so instantly as well. It requires a lot of heat, and
Yeah.
if you're doing that over and over and over, it can affect your mouth. I'm still going to hit a vape pen. I do not care. Like, I'm still gonna smoke one. Like, that's never gonna change. But I know now, oh, so it does do more than what I thought. Oh, so let me create something to help reduce the effects of it, because I'm gonna do it either way. So yeah.
Nice. No, yeah, I mean that's amazing. It's funny that you took it to your dentist, and that's great though. You got dentist approval essentially.
Mhm.
In a sense, and I'm sure that's something new to them because they're used to these commercial products being on the shelves and everything like that. And to be honest, we need more, smaller scale products like that. You know what I mean? Like, and it starts out small and then usually grows after time. But
Right.
like that's how everything is. And like why not try something like that? And do you go through like a company that kind of does it for you, or do you do it yourself and all that?
So I came up with the ingredients myself, but I do have a manufacturer that did the building of it, of the materials. But yeah, so everything is all mine, but like the entire design, color scheme, logo, all of it, it's mine. They
Yeah,
just built it for me. So
that's the way to do it right now, especially starting out. You gotta,
yes,
yeah, it'd be really expensive to have a whole toothpaste lab.
right. And the lab, even the certifications. Whew, I even just looked up just the cost of to get a FDA certified manufacturing plant, and it's ridiculous. So yeah, being able to partner with someone who already has all the certifications, has the tools, the means to do it, and it's still mine, and I own everything. Cool. Okay, I'll do
Yeah.
it that way.
Where do you plan on selling the product? Like on like an online store or physically at a store?
Hopefully both. I want to get everywhere, as many places as possible. I know for sure I'm going to do online. And my plans with the online store is not only can you do a single unit by itself or a single tube of toothpaste, but I'm also thinking about things like subscriptions, because most people don't want to have to keep doing that every month. No shade. And I understand that. So I just want to make things convenient for people. So I'm considering subscriptions and bundles as well. So for sure online, but the goal is and always will be to get into every store I possibly can.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
Yeah. Eventually, it,
Mhm.
you're at the beginning, but you're actually making a lot of progress. Like from the time that first time I spoke to you to now having a physical product in your hand that you're working with and trying to fine tune. That's huge steps, and it's telling that the dedication that you're putting towards this. It really shows, because you come from a world where you just skincare and oral care and everything is a big thing for your life as is. Why not share it with the rest of the world? Your passion. So that's great to see. I'm really glad that you're doing that. Well, before we move on to the next topics and everything, where can people find this product or you yourself, online or in real life, essentially?
Well, online you can find my Instagram account. It's at Shekhinah Jones, all lowercase, no spaces. I give updates on the product. I've been doing you can find a reel on my profile where you can see the start of it and see where I'm at and what's going on. So you can find me there. In real life, usually somewhere reading a book, somewhere being somebody's little nerdy, whatever. Yeah, that's me. But yeah, so you'll probably see me like out and about downtown, maybe, or at an art gallery or bookstore, wherever.
Yeah.
Somewhere chill, low key.
Yeah. Well, keep us all updated, especially myself. I'll make sure to share your stuff once you get it all going, because I'm excited to see where this goes. Where the different products come as well, with it too, and everything. So this is the beginning of a start for a new adventure for you and a new business, and and such a lucrative industry and something that is needed. So I appreciate you joining me today, and appreciate you bringing this. This is something so original for the show. We've never done anything like this before. So I'm glad that you brought this up to me, and we're able to have this great conversation. So is there anything you want to say before we move on to the next topics?
No, just buy the brand when it comes out. And once I start making money, I'll start buying y'all stuff too. No shade.
Heck
So
yeah. Whenever you get a t-shirt out, make sure you let me know. I'll buy it because I'm sure it'll be a cool t-shirt.
yeah, my best friend, she said the same thing, that I should come out with merch. And I was like, girl, I don't know if I can do that. But she was like, you really should. So you're encouraging it. So yeah, I
I've
probably
seen
will.
Colgate hats, so go for it.
Mhm.
Do it. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next topics, guys. Thank you again so much for joining me. I'm gonna update y'all real fast with the legislative update. I know I said last week was the last week, but I had to tell you guys actually what passed. And this is going to be a really short update because only one cannabis-related bill passed, and that was HB 10. That was the enforcement bill. Everything else failed, even that hemp ban bill, because I know myself and a few other people were kind of worried about it passing because I think it's just a little too soon, and we need to wait for the federal government to come up with the new farm bill before we really kind of start implementing that. Because if we do that, then we're gonna have to go back again next year and change a few more things instead of just starting with a clean slate and try to figure out where to go from there. But I still feel that we need to just enforce that industry a little bit better, or excuse me, regulate that industry a little bit better, and make sure that we enforce those regulations once we set that up, because that's really what's missing from the component of that is the regulation part. Cannabis in New Mexico, the adult use is highly regulated. But when you go to like the hemp products, they're not as regulated on the state level. And we need to kind of, meet that, progress that's being made with it, because, these products are being made and being put out there, but there's no regulations behind it. And it's going to be up to us as the states to do that, since the federal government isn't really, it's kind of dragging their feet when it comes to it. So it's going to be up to us, and we should regulate versus ban, because it's just a slippery slope if we start doing that. So the HB 10 one, that's the enforcement bill. That was actually a very highly controversial bill. A lot of people wanted more enforcement here in New Mexico, but when it came down to it, someone were like, well, no, not like that. We don't want cops. And I think the fear is that there's just going to be this cannabis force, and it's going to be like the drug war days, where there's going to be kicking down doors. They're going to be going in, harassing everybody, going in gunpoint, acting like everyone's a criminal. And I think that was the real idea and thought going through most people's heads with this. But essentially what it's going to be is the Cannabis Control Division will be the ones to investigate, and then they hand the investigation over to those people, to the authorities, essentially, for the Cannabis Authority. And they're the ones who do the whole process after that. They go in, to an illegal farm, get rid of it, do the raid, and the whole thing, work with whatever other law enforcement agencies they need to work with to get it done. But there's only going to be 7 of them, I believe, 7 cannabis officers, essentially. And they will be able to confiscate, arrest, and fine people for criminal charge kind of stuff. This doesn't take effect until July 1st of this year, but we're probably not going to see a lot of this happen until a few months later, to possibly the fall. They got to get these guys trained up. They got to get them equipped. They got to get them all together and on the same page. What I hope doesn't happen is we see what happens with the inspectors. Is the inspectors kind of are like in their own world sometimes, and some of them make up, I wouldn't say make up stuff, but they believe certain things, and they think that what they say goes, but they're just enforcing rules and laws. They're not the ones making them up. And I feel that that's the issue, because I've heard some wild stuff from different areas of the state that this inspector said to do this and this, and I'm like, well, where the hell did that come from? And they're like, come to find out, it was a suggestion from them. They're like, oh, well, that was just a heavy suggestion from me, but they made it seem like it was the rule and law, and et cetera, et cetera. So I hope that that's something that we don't run into. Do we need more enforcement? Yes, we do. We need more enforcement on this side. That's something that we're lacking here in New Mexico heavily. So hopefully that'll kind of fix some of the issues. I know when it comes to legislation stuff, sometimes people try to legislate by fear, and we need to not do that, because when you legislate by fear, you just create more issues. So that's one thing that I want to caution people for. Unfortunately, here in Las Cruces, we did have an unfortunate event that happened over the weekend. A shooting happened at one of the parks here during. It wasn't a car show; it was just a car meetup. Where they go and do donuts and stuff. Bunch of kids, and unfortunately, a bunch of kids had some guns and shot 15 people, and about 3 or 4 people died. It's unfortunate. The whole community is still mourning now. People I know personally have been affected by this. And we really don't want to see something like that bleed into the cannabis side, that anger bleed to us, because we're not doing something right, because we tend to get blamed for things when it's really not our fault. Alcohol could kill millions of people, but one stoner slips and falls, and all of a sudden, we're the devil.
Right.
So that's something that we need to keep in mind too. My condolences to the people who lost someone this past weekend, and I hope a speedy recovery to everyone that was injured or hurt. And even people that were affected, people that got in accidents trying to flee the scene. They're still trying to figure situations out too. And I can't really blame them, because in a situation like that, you're not thinking right. Like you're in flee mode. You're not in a combat mode. You're in flee mode. You're just trying to get the hell out of there. Everyone was scattering every which way. Unfortunately that happened. But I just want to remind everybody, let's not continue the path that we're on, and then all of a sudden cannabis gets blamed for something. Like the kids were high on marijuana or something like that. During it. That's not what we need. So anyway, I digress. That's all I have for the legislative update. I didn't mean for it to turn into the other thing, but do you have anything on those bills or anything like that you want to talk about before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, so I feel like I can understand where people are coming from, where they feel like people are going to enforce things on them that are not in the original law, like not picking a side, one or the other. But you kind of see it happening in the world right now, and having fears with all the raids and things like that. But I agree with you, and I believe we should take every situation on its own. Like, we shouldn't just judge everybody and think that the world is going to cave in because of having a law enforcement um, agency like doing checks and things like that. Doesn't have to be the end of the world, but it's understandable why. But since it's just starting up and things are kind of just getting going, maybe reach out to Chad, see, hey, what is this? Like, who are these people? Can we, even just sit down and have a meeting with them and just talk? Like, I don't know, like how they do coffee and kids, the cops meet the kids or whatever. Why not do that with the stoner people? Make us feel comfortable with
Yeah.
them. So, but yeah, so just relax, everyone. Just take it case by case. No need to add more stress right now anyway.
Yeah, 100%, because things are already so crazy, in the state, in the nation, in the world. There's a lot of stress going on, and the last thing we need is more stress and more crazy things to deal with, because when you deal with the police force, that is a reactive force. It's not a preventive force. The preventive force is us, the operators, and us within the industry. We are the ones that can prevent most of this dumb stuff from happening in the first place. The enforcement or the law enforcement, they're just reacting to it. They rarely ever prevent it, because that's not their job. Their job is to react to it, and they do a good job of it. They do a good job of reacting to things. But as a community, and this pertains to a lot of things, it's going to be up to us to be that preventive measure, and it's going to have to come back to us. But we're going to have to get back to that. This whole community thing, where we all kind of come together as a community to try to fix things, try to prevent things, and we're going to have to police ourselves, industry, a little bit better, or else it's just going to get worse. So I digress. That's all I have for legislative update. It's a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but that's okay. And thank you so much for your words too. That was great, because that people need to hear that too. So we're going to move on to one of the last of the two topics, and that's MSO troubles. And to be honest, I covered this, I think, last year, Gino, or the year before. We covered this, and it's about Schwazze. Schwazze is a Colorado-based company. They've been here in New Mexico for a few years now, and they actually are under the name of Our Green Leaf and Everest now. Now, these companies were New Mexico owned when they first got popped up during the medical days, and then they ended up getting bought out by Schwazze during right before medical, and of course finalized bought out once we went adult use, because the laws totally changed. When we were medical, we didn't have licensing open at all. There was no new licenses. You couldn't buy one. You couldn't transfer it. So the way they got in is through a management company loophole. Big companies with a lot of money tend to find these loopholes like that. Here in New Mexico, when we had a very limited licensing type of style, is the big companies were only the ones that really benefited. And of course, they come in under a disguise of, oh, we're local, we carry this and that, blah, blah, blah. But when you have an open licensing like we have here, they're a little bit more honest. And that's something that I do appreciate, is there's a little bit more honesty with an open market like this versus trying to close it. And then everyone's trying to go in from some facade because we created some law for an arbitrary reason or a fear, legislating off of fear, like I just said earlier. Right. So going back into the Schwazze thing, they're an MSO, like I said, from Colorado, but they've been here for a long time. it looks like they're having some financial issues, and it looks like I don't know, I'm not going to say bankrupt, but they defaulted on some debt recently, and it's quite a bit. And as I talked about last time, they actually got sued by a bunch of employees a few years back for almost like wage theft, because they were taking employees' tips. They weren't allowing them to keep them. And that's actually something that's an issue in New Mexico's cannabis industry to start out with. There's a few companies that have lawsuits right now, and they're most likely going to lose them for the same reason. And because this case law exists already, that doesn't help them to start out with. Usually the case law kind of helps you. If they're like, well, has anyone lost this before? It's like, well, yeah, for the same exact thing. Yeah. It's like, what do you want me to do? you know, what do you want me to do about it? So we'll see how that goes. They lost over $500,000 to that. They had to pay out to ex-employees, could be current employees, I don't know, but they had to pay out that much. And they also defaulted on $700,000 payment earlier, I believe, last month or November, fairly recently. And so it looks like the woes for them is really getting worse. And I'll read a snippet from the article where I read a lot of this and where we got it from. This actually came out just the other day, and I posted it. And of course, a lot of people were, giving their opinions and ideas and, everything that, of course, they feel about Schwazze. Some people hate it. Some people love it. During the medical days, of course, it was really easy for them to make all the money that they did. But that changed once recreational came, when people had more options. There was only about 30 something producers. I think at our height, we had like 35 at the most. But I think when adult sales happened, we had about 33, I think, or 32. I think we lost just a couple right before we went adult use. And that's not a lot for the whole state. Like here in Las Cruces, we when I first became a patient, there was one dispensary here in Cruces and one in Ruidoso. And then slowly we started to get more and more. So
yeah, I got them like they have churches back in Kansas. Y'all got them on every corner, for real. I told somebody that at the bank. Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
no, it is what it is. It's at the very beginning of an industry. Everyone is trying to get in and make some kind of money. So, it's going to take till probably a couple more years. But there's a lot of people actually getting out of the industry now. So we're going to see probably a bigger dip happening here soon. It's been kind of a slow dip, but it's kind of remained same numbers for about a couple of years now almost. And now we're probably going to see like the dip going down more here as people get out of the industry, because some of them, were here at the very beginning and they just finally just said, I can't do it no more. It's too competitive, or, I just can't keep up. And, the patients, I'm used to saying that, the consumer is really looking for quality. Not everybody wants to get just the shake, or they want quality shake. But they're not wanting sticks and stems. They're not wanting, you're calling this, but it's this. So that's one of the issues. But I don't know if Schwazze is, unable to do that. I haven't shopped at those places in a very long time. I don't go to dispensaries a lot to start out with. Like I'll go visit and everything, but I don't buy a lot of product there. I grow my own stuff. And I recommend people do that yourself too. If you can grow, you have the means, grow for yourself. It's fun. Plus, it's great to be able to smoke with your friends and say, I grew this. And they go, no way. That's always a fun thing to do, is to shock them. Like, I grew this. What? And, don't get me wrong. I love going to dispensaries, supporting friends too. That's sometimes what I'll go to a dispensary just to support a friend. I'll go buy a few grams just to support. Or maybe I'm going to a party. I don't want to bring all my whole stash. I want to maybe bring some edibles, bring some cannabis drinks. I'm going to change it up a little bit, So anyway, I digress with, the story and everything, getting off on topic again with it. But what do you think so far on this and everything? What is your experience, with, shopping at these two places, or, just even your short time here in New Mexico knowing about
them? Well, that story kind of changed my perspective a little bit. Just because I worked as a server back in the day, and tips were my life. And so, I understand like where I'm stores having to like tip out to like a bartender or tip out to wherever, whatever. But at the end of the day, you don't steal all of them. That's kind of interesting. But I feel like my experience, it hasn't been horrible. Like you go to some places, it's good. You have the best, great quality, whereas other places, like you said, they lie to you, and make you think that they're giving you great stuff and it's trash. So it just depends on the place. And like you said, or I guess I try to not focus too much on big brands, kind of like no shade cookies. I'm not going there. I would rather, I trust someone more local, and someone who is more upfront and honest about, like, hey, with what you want, this edible or this joint or whatever might not be for you, whereas this is more of your thing. Which for me, I'm more into how it makes me feel. I'm more into like the science type of stuff behind it. I'm not into percentages, which I know is a thing for some people. Right.
Right. You know me, yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it just depends on the store and the brand.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I wanted to get someone else's perspective on that, you know, who hasn't been here in New Mexico since the, you know, the medical days, knew, you know, all this, the history and everything and what's going on. But I'll read a part of the article I clipped out of this because it's interesting. It does give a lot of information. So as of November last year, they held a debt of $196 million. As a result, the bankruptcy consultants that Schwazze enlisted last summer to refinance its debt due to later this year, now totaling approximately $11 million. Exercised control of about 1.5 million in cash in Schwazze bank accounts, according to the company in March 13 filing with the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission. So there's a lot of debt. I mean, that's a lot. I don't know what's going to happen or whatever, but this is what's being reported. But we're already seeing effects of this kind of debt and everything in this this issue from them. Recently, they've let a few people go, even analysts and stuff like that of the company. And when they start, you know, letting people like that go, that means they're probably going to be consolidating a lot more. Now, I don't know if that means selling off certain stores to other companies or whatever, or sell off as a mass one, but this doesn't look good. I don't know if something's going to change, but I know that lawsuit, you know, for the tips thing probably didn't help with this.
No. It's like James Baldwin, one of my favorite authors, says, the wages of sin are seen everywhere. You're not gonna get away with fucking people over, no shade. You're gonna, and you, like you said, you just kind of see trouble happening. So
and this company is known for issues, you know, not just here in New Mexico and Colorado and stuff like that. And they were previously known as Medicine Man, or Medicine Man. That was previously what they were known as. And you know, I'm nothing. Shout out to the people who work there. I know a lot of people that work for both companies. Great people that work there. It's not their fault that the people above them.
right, exactly.
You know, that's really what this boils down to. It has nothing against anybody that works there, manages there, whatever. You know, the higher ups are the ones who make the decisions. They're the ones just trying to get by and get the paycheck.
Right. And it might not even be a people issue, just the way stuff is set up, you know, like how it was structured in the beginning, you know, and it's hard to kind of restructure things after a while. So like you said, yeah, it's not a direct hit to anybody personally. It might just be just how the company is built. Just got to get restructured, you know?
Yeah. And that happens a lot with the corporate companies, you know, stuff like this a lot. You know, like the mom and pops, I know that they have a hard time paying people of livable wage that, you know, certain bigger companies can, but sometimes they're a little more reliable when it comes to that. You know, they're a little bit more flexible. You know, so maybe if this does affect you and you do get let go, maybe go look at a mom and pop shop or something, you know, maybe something not so corporate. Try a different route, because in New Mexico, our backbone is the mom and pop shops here in New Mexico. And of course, be careful who you work for. You know, it doesn't matter corporate or mom and pop. Do due diligence and everything, and figure out who these people are, and et cetera, you know, if it is a good company, because it is company to company, if it's a good company or not, corporate or not. You know, there's good corporate companies and there's terrible corporate companies. You know, you figure out which one is which. But I'll keep you guys updated on this this story and everything as it progresses. It looks like it's just more and more stuff stacking onto this. Like I said, I've updated you guys before on it, and it doesn't look like it's getting better. So we'll see what happens in the future. I have no clue. We'll see in a couple years if Schwazze is still here. And that'd be unfortunate, because a lot of New Mexicans would lose a job. And you know, that's the sad part when companies go out like that. And I don't want to see that, you know, and people lose access to, regardless of the quality of you like, whatever, you know, I'm all about patient access. And if you have access, by all means, you know, no, regardless of what it is.
Right.
So do you have anything else before we move on to our final topic for the day?
Just like you said, don't get kind of boggled down, especially by a name of a corporation. Go in there, have your experience, and get your. Don't let these people fuck you over. Get your money, get your coins, and keep it pushing. If they disrespect you, keep it pushing. If you love it there, stay, and
Yeah.
don't take it personally.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't take it personally when something like this pops up. You know, you're just the employee there. You're not
Exactly.
the owner. You're not a stakeholder in that sense. You know, you can easily go work somewhere else when if shit hits the fan. And to be honest, they're most likely not going to care when they let you go at the end of the day.
Right.
Because your family is your family and your work is not your family. You know, and I know some places try to make it seem that way.
Mm.
Not the case. You know, at the end of the
The
day.
trick. That's the trick.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna move on to the last one, and this one is actually a very important one. This is one that I've been kind of keeping tabs on, you know, almost under the radar and kind of working with it because we weren't too sure really what the hell was going on in the first place. So there's really no way I could report this accurately to everybody and still get some substance to you guys without it getting confusing and muddying the waters even further. So a couple of weeks ago, I got hit up by someone in the DMs. And they were talking about, you know, they're about to get cut off with their water hauling. And I was like, water hauling? Oh, that's going on. I didn't even know it was happening. But, you know, I thought, you know, people had figured out the whole water, whatever issue. And it wasn't really a concern to me because I don't have a production license in that sense. Or, you know, if anything that I've done production wise, it hasn't been outside of like a city water limit. Because if you're in the city limits, you know, you can just use the city water and you're fine. But if you're out in the boonies, you have property, you need water rights. And so some people that had property, they found out, well, I don't have water rights, but I can water haul. I can bring in water from a source, a local source that has water rights. They can bring it into my farm. I can pay for it, of course, and I have water, you know, and that was permitted. Now, some people didn't realize that this was a temporary fix that was only allowed for a year. Now, I don't know if it was in black and white to them in their face that this was only for a year or if they were misled or what. I have no clue what that is. However, what I do know is that they were told almost out of nowhere that you may not be able to renew if you don't figure your water issue out because you're water hauling and that's only supposed to be allowed for 1 year. Now, here's where things get muddy. Now, I got contacted with that. I made a post about it. I'm sure some of you watching probably saw those posts and were probably confused yourselves. I was confused too. Don't worry. And we're going to make some sense of this. So we figured out what happened. So the state engineer office was coming down and saying that this is the rule that we have. You're only allowed to do it for 1 year. This is what it says. Now the CCD came down and reflected the same thing. We can't renew your license unless you figure your water situation out, meaning you do water rights, you move your location to a city water, whatever it may be. You buy water rights. I don't know, whatever they had solutions they gave them. And then it turned into a blame game where the state engineering office was blaming the CCD, saying that was their decision, and the CCD was saying that it was the state engineer office, and then it became a little thing going back and forth. And it got to the point where people started banding together. Now we have actively people, micros, even macros, producers getting together, trying to figure this out, and actually probably going beyond this. They're probably going to still work together to figure other issues out within the state, because this is most likely going to lead to lawsuits. Because people are possibly losing their livelihoods over something like this. And a lot of these are micros, mom and pops, not these huge, corporate companies that have 10,000, 20,000 plants. These are some of the, farms that produce some of the really best weed that we have in New Mexico. And it's not fair that they're being targeted like this. And it's like targeting poor people, that's not fair. And the way that this water hauling works, I found out, is when you have the water hauler, you have regions where you're allowed to do this. And you're taking the water from that region, keeping it in that region, versus taking the water and moving it to another region of the state where the aquifer or whatever could get fucked up. So that's how they're allowed to do this, and that's how it's sanctioned. But they're only allowed to do it for a year. So they're arguing that, well, why do we have to only be allowed for a year? If this person is charging me for this, they're allotted this amount of water, and they're not going over the allotted amount of water, it's staying in that same water table, then what is the issue? Where are we running to issues here? Now, I don't know the whole conversations that is going on. I'm going to learn more in the next coming days, and I'll let you guys know next week. Everything that I can share, I will share it with you all, of course. So I will figure out more. Next week, I'll have more updates on this. And going further, this is probably going to be another story that I'm going to probably be covering for the long term. As you guys know, since this show started, there's certain stories that I've been covering since season 1. And so some of these things go on for a very long time, years. So this is something that we're most likely not going to stop hearing about for a very long time. This is just the very beginning. And me announcing it to you guys like this really is going to be the start of it, essentially. Now, this is something that is known that's going on because I did make the post, but yesterday I got an update on this story for the positive. It looks like the state engineer office contacted a couple of these farms that were working with them, and they let them know that they have reached an agreement and they're going to extend it for another year. Now, what this means is the problem isn't fixed and not solved. This means that it's a temporary solution, and we need to keep the pressure on them. And because what this is almost like is like here's a temporary fix, fuck off.
Right.
But you don't fuck off. You keep the pressure on. So that's one thing I hope happens is they keep the pressure on them and we come up with a solution. Is it going to be a lawsuit? Possibly. Is it going to be talking to them, trying to change rules? Maybe. I hope, because that's a civil way, coming to some kind of consensus in the middle to figure this out, because there's a lot of farms that bet everything for this, and you know they shouldn't go out of business because of something like this. This isn't something that is really their fault, essentially, because some of them didn't know, and some of them may have been misled. I don't know. I don't know what everyone did when they went and signed their name when they got a license. I wasn't there. Just like not everybody was there with me when I was in Iraq. Like only a few people were with me in Iraq, and they know exactly what happened. So I don't know what happened when these people got their licenses, so I can't say. So with that being said, and the whole story and everything, I mean, what's your thoughts on this?
My opinion is, like you said, if you don't have all the information, just kind of hold off a little bit. But what I'm kind of shocked at, especially within this state, with how big everyone's on local and mom and pop shops and stuff like that, to me, if I were one of those mom and pop shops that were fighting this, I would try to bring up money. Money is a huge motivator for people to listen to. So if there's a way for these local mom and pop shops to show that we make more money, A, and B, we are more than likely going to be here longer compared to these bigger companies, that might help. But like you said, don't let up. And they gave you that extra year, like you said, to tell you to fuck off and shut the fuck up and do what you get out of our face, pretty much. But yeah, don't give up. That's usually a sign to me. I'm gonna fight harder now because you budged a little bit. So now, I'm going to take it from another angle. And for me, I think money always talks.
Yeah, because they told us that this is how it is, but then we found out that isn't how it is. And so there's opportunity for us to meet at the table and come to some kind of middle ground with this, or some kind of solution that benefits both sides. Because yes, in New Mexico, we do need to conserve our water. However, there's swimming pools. There's I don't know how many car washes. There's the oil industry that wastes a lot of water. There's so many different industries in New Mexico that waste water. I mean, there's flood irrigation, and that's been known to just waste water. We here in Las Cruces, we have a bunch of pecans. I mean, New Mexico grows a shit ton of pecans, and they flood irrigate there. Not only causes issues with the water table and the water that we have, but also brings in so many freaking mosquitoes. It's ridiculous. And it causes a temporary microclimates with humidity. It's weird. When they do that, you go by the river and it's like more humid over there, than you leave it. And you're like, what the hell? So, it's weird. And I'm sure it doesn't do great for certain things in the area. So what I'm saying is that they're worrying about cannabis, and we always get the brunt of everyone's anger because, one, we're misunderstood. And for so long we were told, people were told that we're the enemy, and cannabis bad. And so now that goes into farming and stuff like that too. And unfortunately, we're getting the brunt of it. So don't let up. But also be mindful that there might be some changes too. They might have to limit your water intake for whatever reason or something like that. We are a desert. We get less water than Arizona. Like I think Phoenix, Arizona gets more rain than we do, like here in Las Cruces, which blew my mind with that fact because it's hotter there, and for long. But they get more rain, and so that tells you how much rain we actually get here in this area, or how much little we get. And most of our water that flows from the Rio Grande goes to Texas and Mexico, and we dam it up every year, and it only flows for 6-7 months out of the year. Then they have to stop it, let it refill, and then release it. So the Rio Grande here in Las Cruces, I'm sure you've seen it, and the people watching is really who I'm talking to. The Rio Grande's dried up most of the year. You can walk in it. People drive 4-wheelers in it and trucks and 4x4. I mean, they have fun in it, but
Mm-hmm.
Water in it. And it's because we're a desert and we have to conserve our water to such limits. And we're always suing Texas, and Texas is always suing us over the water thing. And it's like an ongoing, never ending thing. And to be honest, I don't know if it's ever going to end.
Right.
Because it's weird. You have 2 states, actually 3 states, because it starts in Colorado, in a country that use this water source, and then it goes into the ocean. And I don't even know if it mixes to the ocean these days.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even know if it makes it that far these days. So all jokes aside and everything, I really do hope that some kind of solution comes from this and everything, and we do come to some kind of consensus, because it does seem that that year might be a little arbitrary because they allowed us another year. If that's the way things were and it had to be, then they would have said there's no budging on this. But they budgeted, they gave us another year. So that's telling us that they might be able to come to the negotiating table, or, maybe some rule changes or something, or, okay, how can we work with cannabis a little bit better? Because we need that. We need those conversations. Some of these conversations we're not always going to agree on, and that's okay. We're not always going to agree with each other and everyone, and that's fine. But we still need to have these conversations, as hard as they are. So that's the end of my rant. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I appreciate everyone watching this week. And Shekhinah, sorry. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Do you have anything else you want to share before we end for the week? And we have to wait for the update episode for what you're working on to hear from you again.
Just thanks everyone for welcoming me into your state, beautiful home, beautiful city. Love it here. Like I said, I'll support y'all as soon as I get some money, get this stuff going. But we will get this toothpaste brand going, and we will continue to change the negative perception on our community, how we think and who we are as people, because we are way more than what they can limit us to be. So yeah.
And we prove them wrong all the time. And we shock ourselves sometimes. So
right.
it's shocking me these days, because the industry's learning how to fight for itself, and I'm proud of that. So anyway, that's all I have for this week, everyone. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, comment. Make sure you like the video on YouTube. Whatever you got to do to make sure you stay in the know. I'll see y'all next week with another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. All right. Cheers.